Come and dream with me.
Hello and welcome to What Do You Want to Watch, the Explosion Network's premier media podcast. Every fortnight we get together to talk about movies, TV and online content and help you answer the question, what a crazy 2 weeks. I'm your host, Ashley Hobley. Joining me this episode is Dylan Blight.
That's not really a question, it's more of a statement.
I mean,
just to
what
clarify,
a crazy 2 weeks?
What a crazy 2 weeks?
How crazy were those 2 weeks?
That's a question. It's been pretty crazy.
Also here, Ciaran Marchant.
Hey everybody, I'm coming here before I, start my fan-made project of zombie movies, homemade zombie movies. Once the streets are cleared, do my own. I heard recently people are going to do shot-for-shot recreations of 28 Weeks Later, and I'm excited for that. I'm pumped for that because they could do it now.
Cool.
Cool. Wow, I'm dead. Ashley shot me down. I'm done. I'm sorry. I'm gone. See you later, guys.
Yep. So this episode we'll be talking about what's in our watch history. We'll be covering some news, and then we'll talk about the film that we ended up watching, Limitless. Yeah. But first, what's our watch history? Of course, if you would have noticed, Mr. Nicholas Pryor isn't here this week. He's probably not going to be here for the foreseeable future, unfortunately, because of coronavirus. Which is also shot down our other...
He doesn't have it.
He doesn't have it. He doesn't have it.
Just to clarify.
He doesn't have it. It's just work has been hectic because of coronavirus.
Ashley could not sell that any worse than he just did. Like if there's ever like a hosting 101, please put this part of the episode into your announcement section.
I don't want to jinx anything, I'm knocking wood, but there's still 36 hours before this comes out to release, so you never know.
I'm so sorry, Nick. I'm so sorry.
I mean, I'm really worried now because I've jinxed a few things in the last couple of weeks. So
shut the fuck up, okay, and do the show. That's all that should come out of your mouth.
Obviously, last time we were talking about the upcoming season of Bevanworld, but unfortunately that's been postponed or cancelled. I'm not sure exactly details.
I mean, I'm going to cancel it. I haven't recorded it yet, but by the time this is up, I'm just going to record a thing and post it on the feed. Bevanworld will be cancelled.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
But Westworld has come out. You've watched at least the premiere, Dylan. What do you think of Westworld Season 3 premiere?
It's Watch Dogs 2 combined with Cyberpunk, and it's the most video gamey the show's ever been, considering basically Westworld's a sort of futuristic video game concept anyway, where you kind of go to a park and role play as cowboys in a world. So it's always been video game-y. However, the best there's no way that people making the show haven't been inspired by Watch Dogs and stuff. There's literally a character in the new season who has a shirt on, who it has like several emotions, like angry, sad, happy, or whatever, and it changes. Like at one stage the shirt's like glowing and it says happy. They get punched in the face and the shirt then goes to angry before he punches them back. I'm like, that is some Watch Dogs, like futuristic, cyberpunky type. Yeah, whatever.
It's amusing that it's become more video gamey since the changes that happened this season that have made it different to the last season of Westworld. It's amusing.
So only one episode in, I'll say I'm very much enjoying it. However, it's basically a new show at this point. Before they go too hardcore into the new show aspect of it, they spend like the first 10 minutes of the show with our main character, Dolores, very much connected to what happened at the end of the last season because, of course, I mean, it's not really spoilers. We're in season 3. If you haven't watched it by now, I can't not give away spoilers to talk about it, but they all escape the park, or her and a couple other robot-y people. What do they call them? I don't know. Official word. They escape the park, and so she's out, and she's pretending to just be human or whatever. So you get to meet her. But then after that, it cuts over this new character who's been played by Aaron Paul, and his character takes up pretty much the majority of the episode until right near the end. And you're learning about him. I don't fully understand what his character's up to. Maybe they explain more in the second episode, but I haven't watched it just yet. But he's basically like this construction worker dude who's his friend has died in the past, and he's got like this system set up, this futuristic type system that they must have where, like, if you're struggling to get over the death of someone, they basically try and recreate a AI version of that person. So he'll get like phone calls from this person he's missing. So I guess in this Westworld future, if your mum dies or something like that and you're really struggling to get over that, like their version of like kind of psychology or whatever to help you get over that is they could have periodically have your mum ring you up and you're able to talk through with them or whatever else. So he's obviously going through some shit. So I'm looking forward to learning more about him. By the end of the episode, he meets Dolores, and we know those two are going to become partners in their mission to take down the powers that be going forward. But it's really good. It just very much is like completely season 1 and 2 of Westworld are like their own thing, and then season 3 of Westworld is like, hey, it's a completely different show with these couple characters that are from the previous seasons basically. But yeah, it's really good.
Great. So I was fortunate to go to a media screening of Onward, the new Disney Pixar film, that unfortunately played for 2 days before all cinemas got closed down. So I don't know if this review is really going to matter anytime soon, but I really had a great time. So the film is about it's set in like a magic fantasy world with elves and centaurs and different creatures and stuff, but at some point people started using science and electricity instead of using magic, so magic became this thing that was kind of fell to the wayside. So you're introduced to these 2 elves. Their father passed away before the younger one, Ian, was born, but on his 16th birthday they get given like this staff that with a magical spell to bring their father back for 24 hours. But of course the spell goes wrong, and they end up with only the lower half of their father.
And the leads are Chris Pratt and
yep. So the little kid,
Tom
the younger
Holland,
one, is played by Tom Holland. The older brother is played by Chris Pratt, who is on type, playing a like doofus, like over the top, like kind of a failure kind of guy. You know, the type he's played in a couple of things. So pretty much the crux of the movie is they've got to go get this magical stone so they can properly do the spell, so they can bring their father back completely. So it's a fun mix of like Weekend with Bernie's, because they like put like a outfit on the top of their father, so it looks like he's a person instead of just half a body. And also it feels very much like a D&D adventure. Like there's obviously they're using magic to kind of try and get past try to conquer all these different encounters and certain things. They come across different people that they either have to battle with or they talk with, you know. So it very much feels like a D&D inspired story. And even in the actual movie itself, there's like little miniatures and that kind of thing that he plays, and the book that he uses to explain all the spells is like from a game. So it's very much heavily, in my opinion, very heavily D&D inspired. But it's very much a Pixar film, even though initially I thought it looked very Disney animation more than Pixar, I think, which is more of a statement on how far Disney animation has caught up to Pixar. But it just hits the emotional beats that you expect from Pixar, and definitely recommend having a couple tissues handy.
I was going to say, on sadness levels, where is it sitting in the Pixar games? Like,
it's
not
the
lowest
up.
end.
I mean, it's probably
is it like the lowest end is like Cars, because I don't think I've ever cried in Cars.
Yeah, no, there's no.
And then
probably like
the upper end is like start of Up and the end of Toy Story 3.
Yes, I would say it is sitting at probably a 7.5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
so.
Okay, definitely.
But I'm not sure, yeah, because obviously it's a story about brothers and that kind of thing, so maybe if you don't have brothers, that might not hit the exact same way. But I think maybe more if you're like an only child, maybe it won't hit the same way. But yeah, definitely worth seeing if you can see it. Obviously in America, you can currently see it, but in Australia, it is.
Wait, in America they haven't stopped cinemas yet?
No,
it's crazy. Okay.
No.
We'll get to it later, but it's currently on VOD for rental.
Oh, okay.
Yes. All right. So, Ciaran, you're here. That means you're here to talk about anime.
Right. Okay. All right.
That was all the lead-in I've got.
Yep. No, that's all the lead-in.
So I'm in a really fun time in my anime watching, I guess. I've always watched anime, but I've never kept up with new anime week to week. I've always binge watched anime and just, picked a series and just started plowing through it and catching up. At the minute, I'm solely in love with the I think it's a very prominent anime now. Haikyuu is it's a volleyball anime about a high school volleyball team and their journey through their sport and everything. It's volleyball, and it does. When I started watching it, I did not care about volleyball. It's like the most hype and wholesome stuff. It's in season 4 at the moment. I think I tear up once an episode in the last maybe 4 or 5 episodes. I get tears of just wholesome joy of just being happy, being like, wow, they've come a long way in 4 seasons. Seasons aren't very long, especially the 3rd season's only something like 10 or 11 episodes. It's so fantastic and really fun to watch the kids grow up and watch the journey between them all. It's really fun, and I love the range of characters in it. Of course, My Hero is in a really interesting spot currently. My Hero Academia. Ash, I don't know how caught up you are currently with it.
I am all caught up.
Hero. I was anticipating the current arc of My Hero to be filler and to be and to be like, we're taking a break. We just had this massive arc. This current arc has been really, really good. Like, just the last
surprisingly
2 episodes are surprisingly awesome. Like, even just the villain, who I was like, oh, you're a filler villain. I don't care that much about you. No, you're a cool villain. Okay, cool. And then the last episode, which when it was sold, it's like, okay, the villain stuff is over. We're just going back to the fillery.
Yes. So we're going back to school. At this school, they're doing a school festival, which is a thing that a lot of Japanese schools do. Because it's set in the world, because of events, the school's on lockdown because there's been a lot of villain attacks. The symbol of justice is not around anymore. If you have,
exactly.
That's spoilers. But
sorry for spoilers.
So the whole thing with the villain prior to this is him wanting to break into the school and like disrupt everything, and of course, Deku stops him, and then this thwarted his plans to try and. I think that again, that villain was really cool, interesting, like a social media based villain.
Yeah,
like not doing terrible stuff, but like just being a dick.
100% Dylan, like 100%.
Yeah. And then this this episode is full on like festival. Like they do a big 10% of it is like a big song number. And there is probably the most heartwarming moment in the series so far in this episode. It's insane.
Especially in like current times where, the world's slightly going to shit if you haven't noticed, and there's all like doom and gloom. This episode came out, I watched it Sunday morning, and I was like, I'm going to be okay. It's going to be fine.
Beautiful.
It's really beautiful, and I'm excited to see where it goes. This is moving past that arc now, so obviously it's building up to more stuff.
Maybe I suspect there's only like 3 or so episodes left this season.
Of this, no. There's 25 episodes.
Yeah, that was like episode 22.
No, it wasn't.
Do either of you know how far ahead the manga is to the?
The manga's very far. Not
okay.
I think. Let me double check this, because most of these. So the manga is at a point where the manga has a spin-off manga.
It's got multiple spin-offs, but
chapters,
I think it is far enough ahead that people I know have done prepped art ahead, knowing that it'll be in the show and people will be into
500 chapters. There's 500 chapters of the manga, which generally
how many episodes of the anime is there?
There is. This is season
almost 100.
4. And
so
it's about
ages
100. Yeah, so there's heaps. There's plenty to go on that. So Dylan, I would definitely suggest if you want to feel like watching something.
I started it.
You started it? It gets better. The start's kind of
I didn't dislike it. I watched the first 5 episodes or something, and then for whatever reason I was like, you know what? I'd rather read the manga for this for right now.
Okay.
And I'm up to volume 7.
Oh,
6,
okay, fair enough.
Something.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Ash, you watch dubbed, don't you?
Yes. Oh, well,
Yeah,
no, actually, recently I've been watching the subbed because the dub's been delayed.
Delayed? Okay, that's
It's
okay.
like,
Interesting.
no,
Because I really,
time to
I've
wait.
literally been rewatching the first season in dub format with a YouTuber, and I hate the dub so much. Like I just feel pure hatred towards the dub voices, and it's really bad.
I've never understood how they dub it so fast, and expect it to have the quality.
It's weird. I think Funimation's actually pretty good at it. Like I'm not.
I
don't
suspect
hate
they've come with some sort of deal with the Japanese studio and like, hey, when we need to get this as soon as possible. So
It's still not as much.
I mean,
time
it's
as
not
they
like
used to
they're
have back in the
animating
day.
it to the last minute.
And especially, and it's really interesting watching dub actors, because even in the actual like recording studio, they're matching the voice flaps, like the mouth flaps, of what's been animated already, which is kind of impressive. But no, anime's in a really cool place at the moment. I think there's a lot. Check out. I did for the current, I guess, anime season. I did my top 10 animes that I was checking out this season. I don't think I was maybe 10 or 8. I can't remember. But there's definitely a couple of those I've fallen out of, or I've decided I'm just going to watch you when you're in full at some point, because you're good, but you're not me watch regularly every week good. I definitely... I'm like, the weirdest one is the one that I was least excited for out of all of it. The one that I thought was stupid. No, 2 that I thought were stupid when I initially read about them. I am enthralled with. I think they're fantastic. There is one that has a really long name, and I'm gonna quickly grab that up. But about an MMORPG that is a girl that's never played video games, and she's in a virtual reality MMO. And she's scared, so she puts all of her stat points in defense and like being a tank. And it's just her adventure of breaking the game. Like, it's physically somebody breaking a video game and finding exploits in it by accident. And it cuts to like the game devs every now and then, which are these virtual creatures that are like, what the hell is she doing? Like, I've never seen in a virtual MMO there being patch notes for an update of the game where they've had to patch the game because of a player. Like, I've never seen that actually introduced in an anime. I think it's hilarious. Let me quickly find the name of that anime because it's very long. My points of defense. It is Bo Fury. I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense. That is Bo Fury, which it's a very literal name for what's going on, but it's fantastic. The other one was Darwin's Game, which is a real life. It's like a mobile app that turns your real life into the Hunger Games, where at any time somebody could try and kill you in real. Like, it's all based on your phone. It sets you up in different matches and people get different abilities and stuff just naturally because of this game. I thought it was dumb when I read the preview. It is awesome and I really enjoyed it. It's just finished off its first arc. Both Darwin's Game and Bo Fury are both 10 episodes in, so definitely, if you got time, just go check them out. They're both on Anime Lab. They're both definitely on. Darwin's Game is like up to 7 episodes on Crunchyroll, if I remember rightly, if you have Crunchyroll. But anime's in a really cool spot, so watch anime, people. Tweet at me if you got anime recommendations.
Cool. Well, I'm going to add to this anime segment of the show.
Ooh.
I watched a series that I had the manga for back in the day. Beck Mongolian Chop Squad.
I've got that on DVD.
Yes. So it's an anime about a kid becoming part of a band and them sort of getting into music and the trials and tribulations. Super enjoyable. Because I'd read the story obviously ages ago, just reliving that was really good. I actually watched the live action adaptation that they did a few years back, which isn't as great, but still pretty good, solid. But yeah, great. I don't think the animation quality is that great, and it kind of goes slow at times, and they kind of end episodes at weird points, but there's only like 26 episodes. Super enthralling. The music pretty good. Yeah.
When did you read it? Like, how old do you reckon he was? Or what
I don't know,
year?
like 10 years ago.
Yeah, because the reason I brought all the DVDs was I saw them the same year that or maybe early the year after Scott Pilgrim came out.
Yeah,
and
that was an inspiration apparently for Scott Pilgrim.
And I saw it, and you see the front cover, and you see this like dude playing in a band or whatever with the like the art style or whatever that was on the front cover. I'm like, this shit looks like some Scott Pilgrim type shit without all the fighting, but with like
the music,
factor. Yeah, so I'm like, I'll take that. So yeah, that's why I brought it originally.
Yeah, it's really.
I can't remember much about it because I've watched it for 10 years
only,
or whatever.
The only kind of disappointing thing is it ends before like halfway through like the manga story, but it ends on like a perfect note, kind of like the like high point of the start of the series. And I think the point of the series where they stopped publishing it in America, because I couldn't get copies past that point of the.
I think there's heaps of animes that have similar.
Yeah, have similar stories.
Story, especially back like around the
that
2000s
time
or whatever.
Not anymore because they keep these animes going forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
So.
Plus, when shit's digitally, how do you track like what's popular in America or like your westernized, Western countries or whatever? When everyone could just be reading it through the Show and Jump app, not just going and ordering it online, the manga and the whatever else. Because I remember like back in the day when my friend got me into Death Note, the only way he could get the Death Note DVDs was he was like the one dude down at our local DVD shop who was paying to get one DVD in every time it released to buy it and get it delivered. They weren't getting it in stock. That was him, and then he would lend them to me and my other friend, and that's how we would watch Death Note. And that you could not find anime anywhere. So, but if those people would have been looking and being like, "How's Tasmania for anime?" Oh, there's like one dude in Launceston buying Death Note, but these days it's a bit harder when you can't track all the online stuff. I guess, yeah.
Okay, I've got one more anime to talk about. We'll have to talk about it in the mandatory Netflix segment of the show. So I watched the new anime series on Netflix, Beastars.
I don't know. Can it be classed as anime? It's animated. Is it?
I mean, it's made in Japan.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. It just doesn't look. When I've seen it, because I saw it Netflix and I watched through the trailer yesterday, and the art style just seemed very Western for it.
It seems very like it's got like a sort of CGI Beastar.
Look at up in front of me.
Beastar. It's Beastars.
Beast. Oh, okay, yeah, got it.
It looks very like a particular thing. It's very.
No, that looks Japanese to me.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like JoJo type standing characters.
So let me give you the plot from Wikipedia, because that'll just make everything a little bit easier. Legacy, a large grey wolf, is a timid, quiet student of the Cherryton Academy, where he lives in a dorm with several other carnivorous students, including his outgoing Labrador friend Jack. As a member of the school's drama club, Legacy works as a stagehand and supports the actors of the club, headed by star pupil Louis, a red deer. Out of nowhere, Tem the alpaca is brutally murdered and devoured in the night, setting off a wave of unease and distrust between the herbivore and carnivore students. At the same time, Legacy has a faithful encounter with Haru, a small dwarf rabbit, and begins developing complex feelings for her. This is a weird show.
It looks weird. It looks like it. For me, when I first saw it, I was like, this has been created for a very particular part of the internet that
yes.
I distance myself from.
Yes.
On IMDb, when I opened it, the top user review who gave it 9 out of 10 said, a dark Zootopia. Does that sound...
Yes, it's very much of dark Zootopia. The crux of the story is that wolf has got feelings for the rabbit. It doesn't know if it's like sexual feelings or like hunger feelings, and it's trying to figure that out over the course of the season. And it's weird as shit, but it's kind of riveting.
It's like, is it like a car crash? But a positive car crash?
I don't know. I think it's one of those things that you just need to experience for yourself and find out how you feel. I mean,
you sound like some kind of dealer. Be like, you need to try it for yourself.
You try some of the Beastars. Yeah. I mean, and it's like filled with like sexual attention because the little rabbit is like super. She gets around. She is very promiscuous. she's very she's her own woman.
She gets around like a rabbit.
Yeah. Well, I won't say too much because I think there's story points as to why she is the way she is. But yeah, it's an interesting world. Obviously cool with all the anthropomorphized animals and like just that divide between. Obviously, that's where the Zootopia thing comes in, like the divide between carnivores and herbivores, and like how can these two sets of animals live together peacefully. And there's this slight Beastars thing, which apparently is like a title given for like really the most popular of popular animals, or whatever. But that isn't. That's like a very much a side thing so far, anyway. So yes, Beastars.
So on the whole that's not anime thing. It's based on a manga. The manga started in 2016. So.
Yes,
Okay.
it's based on a manga. Animated Japan. It does have an interesting like stop motion, soft toy, like anime intro.
Oh,
That's really
okay.
cute.
Okay.
But then gets creepy at certain points, because
I will say I'm 100% high five to Netflix because their push on anime is actually quite impressive, especially with like I mentioned Haikyuu earlier, and that's on Netflix now. It's only the first 2 and a bit series, but it's still like they're still bringing those animes over to a more Western audience and a wider audience, and it's not like they're halving it. Like
Yeah, it always pays to look these up because so for example, like The Good Place is a Netflix exclusive like show in Australia, and they market it as if it's a Netflix product. However, of course, it's not made by Netflix. They simply paid to distribute it and
everywhere else.
outside of America and whatever else. So a lot of these animes that are on Japan are the same, and you look them up. Like this one, for example, it says it aired in Japan on Fuji TV, and it was created by animation studio CG Studio Orange or whatever else, and Netflix picked it up for publishing it outside Japan. And most of the anime on Japan, apart from the quote-unquote like fake anime like Castlevania, is the same, because the quote that's the thing. By the way, if we're going to do like what's anime and what's not anime, Castlevania is not an anime.
No, anime is made in Japan. No. It's like champagne.
Yes, the definition is it's a cartoon from Japan. There's no way to twist that into being anything else. But you can say that Castlevania is inspired by Japanese animation, which it is, obviously. However, it is not an anime.
It's even though it's one of my favorites, I've never considered The Last Airbender to be anime because it's
but people always did. It was weird. I'm like, this shit's on Nickelodeon. It's made by Americans.
It's like, this is a Western...
It was animated in South Korea. I think, from memory. Yeah. But yeah.
Okay.
I think, yeah. It wasn't Japan, but it was like somewhere within Asia.
Still not anime.
It's still not an anime, though, even though it's one of the best, most beautiful animated projects ever. But yes, Beastars, crazy series. But is it the most crazy series that came out on Netflix this fortnight? Dylan, talk about Tiger King.
If you're like sitting at home and you got nothing, well, I mean, most of us, if you're sitting at home, you got nothing to do. Tiger King is some of the most outrageous bullshit thing that you could probably watch. Instead of like trying to explain it, I'll open the thing here quickly. All right, so among the eccentrics and cult personalities in the stranger-than-fiction world of big cat owners, few stand out more than Joe Exotic, a mulleted, gun-toting, polygamist, fuck, I struggle with that word every time, and country western singer who presides over an Oklahoma roadside zoo. Oklahoma West Side Zoo. Charismatic but misguided, Joe and an unbelievable cast of characters, including drug kingpins, conmen, and cult leaders, all share a passion for big cats and the status and attention they're dangerous. What the fuck is that word?
Myriad?
I'm having a day. Hey,
are you reading your own review?
No, I'm reading the synopsis on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
But things take a dark turn when Carol Baskin, an animal activist and owner of a big cat sanctuary, threatens to put them out of business, stroking a rivalry that eventually leads to Joe's arrest for a murder for hire plot and reveals a twisted tale where the only thing more dangerous than a big cat is its owner. So, yeah, the show opens with Joe in prison So you know where he ends up there. And they go, oh, he's in here for a murder for hire plot. Like he apparently is accused of hiring someone to murder Carol Baskin, who is a animal rights activist who basically wants to shut down all of these zoos keeping, big cats, which is your tigers, your ligers, your, lions, all that sort of shit. Big cats. She wants to shut them all down. You're like, okay, well, this is kind of a weird thing. Like, how much crazy could it get? It is nuts. The amount of it is one of the weirdest short form limited series documentaries I have watched, and I've watched a fair few of the Netflix ones, but everything that happens in this is just something out of a fucking fairy tale. And every person that shows up in this is like from their own world. You're like, what the fuck is going? It's like literally being introduced to the zoo underworld of people, and you're like, wow, all of this stuff's been happening. And also, this only happened a couple of years ago. Like, he only went to prison a couple of years ago. It was only the end of last year that he got charged, or the start of this year. I kind of something like that. Like, he wasn't officially finally locked down and charged not that long ago. Yeah. You're like, how has all this stuff been happening? And I haven't heard about it.
Is this like non-fiction?
This is non-fiction. Documentary.
This is a documentary.
This is a documentary. I was really confused when you were describing it. It was a sound. It sounded like some kind of TV, like a TV show or like a scripted thing. Because at the same time, I remember seeing people on Twitter talking about a tiger show that could be possibly very triggering for them, and that it wasn't, that there was some stuff happening to tigers or that were involving tigers that they might not be comfortable with. So I just felt, yeah, okay, that's wow, right.
It's a documentary. It's seven
episodes. Yes.
Yeah. I think what I give it, a 7.5 or whatever. I think I would have gave it higher if it. I don't think it like stuck the landing of selling the message of, like the message of these people all got lost in their causes. Because even Joe, they eventually reveal in the series, like when he started his zoo, he was out to like try and provide a place to look after these cats and these animals. But then he gets lost in the celebrity of it all, because every person you meet in this series is basically like, the worst. And as I point out in my review, one character literally sells pussies pull pussy. Like, a lot of people, there's literally people that'll just want to buy young baby tigers for like $3,000-$5,000, I think, as they say they sell them here, and they'll buy them and they'll use them to like go to LA or the
Vegas,
wherever the Vegas, and they use them just to like pull in girls and whatever else. And then when they're done with them, you know what happens to them. These baby tigers don't go to a home afterwards. They're just being used for power. And there's literally another character you meet who basically runs a cult. He only hires like sexy young girls, and he pays them fuck all, and he pulls them all in with the attraction of, come look after all my animals. I've got all these animals. Look, I ride on a fucking elephant. And Joe himself is just one of the weirdest characters you'll possibly ever meet. Literally everything. He's married to 2 dudes. He's got a mullet. He's the most like you think Southern
so
Donald
redneck.
Trump touting motherfucker or some shit like that.
No,
he's always carrying a gun. But he's singing country songs about loving tigers and whatever else. He sets up his own reality TV show. That's why they have so much footage for this, is because he was literally doing every night in his zoo a live stream show, and he would have people filming everything in his zoo for 24 hours, and he was the star of his own show. And that's how they've got so much footage to use for a lot of this. It's nuts. It is absolutely nuts. And even by the time you get to the end and you know where it's going, you know he's going to end up in jail. But the story of how he gets to jail is so nuts that it doesn't matter that they reveal that at the start. They hook you straight away. It's good.
I mean, yeah, it is a incredible story. Everybody is kind of terrible. Everybody has their own secrets and skeletons in their closet. And it's crazy that the story came up together, because I'm guessing they were shooting the documentary based on the fact that he was running for governor of Oklahoma.
Yeah, they don't say.
That's because obviously that's where the footage starts coming in. I suspect that's where they started, and then obviously the other things fell into place afterwards.
Because that's a good point to bring up. You have these 2 people doing this documentary, and I will say it's one of these documentaries for the most part. It's not like a Louis Theroux thing where they're always on camera. One of them only starts showing up on camera more towards the end as Joe starts like being a bit more on the run as things,
Yeah.
things go a bit more crazy. But up until that point, you never really seen the people making the documentary. But yeah, it's like you also never find out their proper reason they initially started like going to look into this. By the way, Louis Theroux has a documentary on this dude. It came out a couple years ago as well. He did a whole thing on him. So that's also a funny fact.
But yes, it is well worth your time. 7 episodes. I think they're like 45 minutes each. I think it was trending on Twitter and that kind of thing. So I think people have been diving into it because just timing wise, it worked out perfectly. That everyone was stuck at home. And this is this weird, crazy story that is it lots of twists and turns, lots of fucked up stuff. So, I mean, man.
Yeah, there's some dark stuff too.
There is
also.
super dark stuff.
Super, yeah, like a lot of it's like kind of like, whoa, this is so crazy, but there are several things that happen that are legit fucked up, quite dark, and yeah. I can't really say because spoilers, I guess they're big moments in the series. I don't want to spoil them, but yeah. So
yes. So that's everything we've been watching. We'll move into the news, and I guess the only news out there, honestly, is coronavirus has ruined pretty much everything. Pretty much every single production on the planet is currently on hold. Which I guess in a certain degree is good because everything will inevitably get delayed, and everything that was meant to come out will eventually has been pushed. Everything from Mulan, The Hunt, what else? Wonder Woman, In the Heights. Everything has been pretty much pushed because every single cinema in the Western world is pretty much closed.
What about that Fast and Furious movie?
Ooh, that's a sore point. Lucky I didn't joke about that last episode. But hey, if you want your Fast and Furious fix, you should check out It's About Family, our Fast and Furious podcast. It was definitely, it was recorded before we got the news. So, I mean, it's kind of weird to listen to at times, but it's still good. It's stay for the good content.
It's great.
I don't think it's relevant, and each episode doesn't rely on.
No, it doesn't rely on
the upcoming movie.
There's just like certain references it's coming soon that are not true. But I guess the kind of interesting news is, at least over in America, a lot of the films that were currently in theaters are being pushed to video on demand. Admittedly, only for rental at $20 a pop. But it is an interesting development. Is this something? I guess the big question is: this a sign of the end of cinemas? Is how hard is it for them to come back? I guess.
I think it comes back, right? Like it. There's a culture around going to cinemas that I think is going to come back. There's a lot of stuff that we're worried about losing at the moment because of all this closure and all of this, and I think some of it is very well founded and very realistic to happen, but I think some stuff that's more cultural, like going to the movies, I just don't see it being completely wiped out by this situation, this pandemic.
I think a lot of the independent cinemas or whatever could potentially get horribly screwed over by this, like a lot of the smaller shops in all industries, but overall I think your bigger chains or whatever will obviously survive. But that's again like anything else, your KFC, McDonald's, whatever else, probably going to be fine. Your smaller mom and pop crop restaurants or whatever are going to have a really harder time with this than the rest of them. So yeah, I don't think cinemas will definitely not die. They're just
No, yeah. To be fair, over in like China and that, cinemas have been starting to open back up and that kind of thing, but it is a bit of a concern. Well, actually, it's not too much of a concern. If you look at the chart numbers, I think none of these films made, except for Onward, which is a new release, hit like the top 10 of any of the charts. I think Onward was like number 1 on the iTunes charts. But, I mean, do we honestly want to pay $20 American just to see a new release video at home? Is that
no, because it'd be like 30 something dollars.
I mean, I'm sure there is a select number of people who that would be a nice proposition, but I feel like for a lot of moviegoers, the cinema experience is key. There's been a lot of push from different people, like saying that the cinema thing is to stay. Voices like Edgar Wright and Christopher Nolan, and apparently every single studio has been saying that they're going to be pushing the theatrical release of things. The only one that apparently hasn't has been Universal. There's been a bit of pushback from the cinema group in America because they're not going to do a theatrical release of Trolls World Tour. It's going straight to video.
Oh no.
Interestingly, in Australia, it's getting delayed till September. So that's unfortunate,
but big deal in Australia. Is it interesting with stuff like Frozen 2 being released early on Disney Plus? Is that a more considering, especially for it was unlucky. I saw a couple tweets about people being like, it's unlucky that we bought the Blu-ray a couple weeks ago and now it's already on Disney Plus, which it kind of that's a bit bad. But does it set a precedent for no?
You own the physical copy of the Blu-ray. That's nothing to be sad about. What happens if it goes down the future? You can still watch.
Yeah, I saw people tweeting the same thing. I'm like, why is this no different than if you randomly went out to JB, got 3 DVDs and a 3 for $20 bargain deal or whatever, and then you get home and Netflix is like, oh, we're putting it on tomorrow, and you're like, oh, fuck you, Netflix! How dare you put something on here because I brought it today? Like, it's unfortunate that you brought it if you only wanted to watch it once, I guess. But if you only wanted to watch it once, then surely you would have just rented the fucking thing,
Fair enough.
So
yeah, I think this is like a special one-off. Obviously, the time, there is a set time between cinema release and it can be released on home video.
Yeah.
This I feel like is a very special case. Again, with the Rise of Skywalker release as well. That's a special case, and apparently Onward is coming to Disney Plus April 3rd. I don't know if that's just America though, or if it's everywhere. Hopefully it's everywhere because Onward is a great movie and everyone should see it. But yeah, it's interesting. Interesting. It's hard to talk about a world without cinema. I mean, obviously, in the wake of this crisis, a bunch of other events have been closed, most notably the Cannes Film Festival, which is like one of the biggest events of the year. That's where Parasite played last year. So I think it's going to be like the indie, smaller films that are going to be suffering, especially after previously not having South by Southwest. When are we going to see these films? Are we going to... It's just weird. It's weird.
it is weird. But they just have to drop them. They just have to work around it. Like, for example, that Kamal Nanjiani one that was supposed to come out.
The Lovebirds is the name of the film with Kamal and Issa Rae. By Paramount. They sold it to Netflix in a deal similar to what they did with the Cloverfield Paradox.
Yeah, but they pivoted. It was supposed to come to cinemas, and because obviously they can't now, instead of like sitting on it for a year or something like that, they were like, you know what, this isn't a movie that's gonna make blockbuster money anyway because it's a rom-com or whatever, So is it worth sitting on it? No, fuck it. Let's just sell it to Netflix. I think that was, and I think more people will start doing similar sorts of deals. Sell it to Netflix, sell it to Amazon, what have you. Because those are the places that can continue making a fucking load of money at the moment, Everyone's subscribing to Netflix and using up all the data in the world or whatever the stories are.
Governments are
and then they're blaming it all on the PS4s and everyone's like, that's not how it works.
No.
4K streaming is what's using the most data.
Yeah. I mean,
lots of stuff. Birds of Prey is apparently coming out in a couple of days as well.
Birds of Prey is coming out. Again, it's probably just America because of all the...
I was looking on iTunes right now to double check what's in here, and I went to pre-orders of what's happening, and it says Birds of Prey expected 28th of March. So
okay,
cool.
Because none of the Universal ones that they said were at least on the Google Play Store.
Yeah, so Invisible Man's here. It doesn't have a date though. It just says pre-order. But Bad Boys for Life is here. It says 15th of April. Emma's here. It just says pre-order. Bloodshot's here, 1st of April for that one, it says. Yeah, so... Yeah, I know. But still, like, some of these ones are coming. But also then, I don't know, like, Birds of Prey expected 28th of March. Is that only to buy it, or will they let you rent it? I think
it'll just be the rental. You rent it
or
for
buy,
20...
surely.
No, you rent it for 48 hours. That's what been the...
No, it says pre-order $24.99.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. We'll let you know in next episode, I guess.
Star Wars is out the 1st as well to rent, apparently. By the way, anyone playing at home. So you could buy it currently because they put it out earlier, but they didn't have a rent price. Available for rent 1st April,
So if you want to, cry and shed tears over that movie again in your own home.
I'm planning to sit down and watch it with the full intentions of coming to terms with the movie. I'm going to go in, literally, to be like, I need to take this in. I need to accept my problems, and this is Star Wars, and I need to just accept it and move on.
You can. I don't think you can.
Third time's the charm.
I'm going to light some candles. Yeah, I'm going to light some candles and just go with it. You know?
No, you should read the novelization instead.
No. I think watching the movie is probably
cool. Speaking of Star Wars, we might as well pivot to the other major bit of news. We've got news about the next season of The Mandalorian. The headline story is that Rosario Dawson is going to be playing Ahsoka Tano.
Osaka, Japan?
Osaka, Japan. In
Japan.
The Mandalorian Season 2. It looks like this news has got kind of a mixed reaction. Obviously, a lot of live action... People who don't love maybe Rebels and that kind of thing are keen to see Rosario Dawson play a Jedi. More Jedis in Mandalorian Season 2, but then the diehard Rebels Clone Wars fans are upset that Ashley Eccleston is not fulfilling the role. Dylan, as a diehard Star Wars Clone Wars fan, how do you feel about this news?
I refuse to put too much time into thinking about it because it hasn't been confirmed by Star Wars. So, although it's looking very likely because it has heaps of sources, I'm still just like I don't want to put too much brain power into it, committing to it. My feelings are, I will be disappointed, but it's one of those things where I'd be willing to move past that and like just accept that I'm getting a live action Ahsoka and like take that for what it is and how cool that is. But I would be disappointed, and I think the reason is because I've thought about it a little bit. Try not to think about it too much, but I've thought about it a little bit, especially the first day I saw the news come up. Obviously, I think the main reason is that Ashley is more than just the person who voices that character. She has embodied that character at conventions for years and years and years. Like, she has come out on stage cosplaying as that character. She has basically invented her universe clothing range around a lot of Ahsoka clothing to start off with before doing other things and whatever else. She has been one of the most prominent female voices in Star Wars for quite a long time. Like, Ahsoka was the kind of character that a lot of girls could get into when Clone Wars was on, and they could gravitate towards that because in the movies it was like, if you didn't like Leia, you didn't have really much choices about it. And Ahsoka was always like I think that's why a lot of young girls got into Star Wars with Clone Wars when it was airing, and that's how when Rise of Sky, the new trilogy started, that was their first trilogy because they got in with the animated stuff when they was like 10, 12 or whatever, and Ahsoka was a way to get in. So I think it is more. It is that Ashley is more than just the actress that voices the role. She's always been at the conventions. She's always been whatever. I struggle to hear any other voice than her. It's nothing against Rosario. I think she's a great actress. I understood why everyone thought she would fit the role and whatever else, but I'm just so... This is one of those roles where I'm like, not like, fuck you, there can't be anyone else, but it is one of those ones where I'm like, I will struggle to hear anyone else in that role.
It's the same as, like, for me, like the voice of Troy Baker for Joel in The Last of Us. And I will struggle to get used to the casting for Joel. And that's just me.
Yeah. It's simple. She just takes a blow to the throat and explains everything.
I will say also, my other thing with this about kind of been hesitant about it being true is because I think a lot of people liked the Mandalorian series because it was kind of its own thing. And until the end of the series, it didn't really have any major connections to anything else. Now, the more they're talking about and we're hearing rumors about season 2, it sounds like they're doing like a complete 180. And it would be cool for me who watches and reads and whatever else, a lot of Star Wars stuff. But it's sounding more and more like, fucking, here's all these characters from Rebels and Clone Wars and the connections to shit and fucking live action Ahsoka and whatever else. And I'm like, well, this is like complete 180 to how season 1 was.
Listen, you
Where
had,
they're like,
you
here's a new
had your
character.
season of it being completely separate from the universe. Now,
But
You get
maybe
sucked back in.
they're trying to do this that for people that for the large Star Wars audience that at the time was like the 9th movie fucking sucked. The Mandalorian was amazing. Maybe they're just trying to put more normal Star Wars back into that to try and make it cool again by osmosis, quote unquote cool again, like try and be like more people like this, so we're going to connect this to this so that people like this more and we can get some positive forward momentum for everything else Star Wars.
Possibly. It does fit Dave Filoni's MO because, like, if you look at Rebels Season 1, it's like, here's a bunch of new characters, no connections to Clone Wars. Season 2, here's Ahsoka. You know, like, and we'll add more connections. But I think in that aspect, I never struggled with it because it was like, oh, this is animated stuff. It's allowed to have all these connections. But then when you start bringing over stuff, it gets confusing. The other thing I will say is if it is true, then we would expect to get Sabine live action as well, because this would be taking place after the end of Rebels, where Ahsoka and Sabine head off together to look for Ezra, spoilers, and everyone was always thinking that was going to be its own series, which it still could be the next animated series for sure, but if they bump into them in The Mandalorian, they would probably be together, and bumping into Sabine would make a lot of sense because, again, spoilers for the end of The Mandalorian. If you haven't watched it at this stage, just skip ahead a little bit, but when the Darksaber shows up at the end of that, Sabine was the one who had the Darksaber for a long time, trained with the Darksaber in Rebels, and then she handed the Darksaber over to Katie Sackhoff's character. I can't remember the name of the character, but Katie Sackhoff's character in Rebels, who she gave the Darksaber to. Now, as I've been saying when we're talking about Mandalorian, I would love to see Katie Sackhoff come and play her character live action, because she could do that. She is a well-known live action actress, and all her voice stuff worked, and she could 100% play the character that she plays in the show, because she looks like it's blonde-haired Mandalorian female character. Good to go. You know, she can play that. She can put on the armor. She can do it. So you could have her show up next season. You could have Sabine show up, connection to Darksaber. You could have Ahsoka show up because Sabine's there. It all makes sense, but I'm still just a little bit hesitant about how it all comes together.
As you are rightly to be with everything Star Wars at the moment.
Yeah. So I guess other smaller pieces of Mandalorian news. Michael Biehn from films such as Terminator, Aliens, The Abyss, The Rock, Tombstone, apparently is joining the cast of Season 2. He'll be playing another bounty hunter. So I mean, there's going to be more bounty hunters in Season 2 of Mandalorian. I mean, it's not surprising. Interesting, another biggish name. I guess it'll be very similar to other characters throughout the season, where he'll just show up for an episode and be a foil for Pedro Pascal's Mandalorian to overcome.
He might be a homie. He might be a friend. He might be like, hey, what up, dog?
Yep. And then on the directing front, because we know Mandalorian was mostly shot before, I think, or was in production before the coronavirus haltage of Hollywood. Dave Filoni is coming back to direct at least one episode, which I'm sure makes people happy. But the more interesting news is that Robert Rodriguez is strongly rumored to have shot an episode of The Mandalorian.
Good shit.
Yeah.
I reckon he has, because I reckon you'll get more big name directors that Favreau is friends with potentially coming in to direct the one episode, because the fear of doing committing to a Star Wars movie isn't there, right? It deletes a lot of the major prep work, deletes a lot of the big budget stuff that you have to work with, deletes years of time working on the movie. It deletes the internet fandom rage coming up to you. At worst, you're known as one of the weaker episodes of Mandalorian, and that's never going to be Last Jedi hate train, you know? Like, no. So I feel like for a lot of directors, it's like, oh, I get to play in Star Wars, but I get to do it with a little bit of a safety net, and that sounds good to me. And if you want to know what directors are going to show up, just go watch Chef Show on Netflix, and then just start a list of all the directors that Favreau has on that show, and that's who I expect to show up.
Yes.
Even then as well, do you think this will be a stepping stone for directors to have their play around in the Star Wars universe with a safety net, feel what it's like to work with Disney in this environment, and then Disney to be like, hey, do you want to do no?
Well,
you don't think so at all?
Maybe one off or one random person, but like in this case, I don't see Rodriguez doing so.
Well, I mean, you look at last season, obviously Taika was already heavily in with Disney with the Thor films, but Rick Fukuyama?
Fukujima? I think.
Yeah, I can't remember. I don't think he's got anything lined up since, but the other director, the female director, was attached to Obi-Wan, so that was a big stepping stone, I would think. So
she's attached. She's still doing it.
Yeah, she's attached. I mean, it's delayed. They're still rewriting and everything, so anything could happen between now and then. But
she was already a part of that prior to the.
No, it was because she shot the show.
Oh, is it because I thought it was the other way around? Okay.
Yeah,
no, she got hired off that.
So I mean, that's one example. But then, yeah, also mentioned in this article, Jon Favreau.
They're TV directors.
Yeah,
I was gonna say though.
Yeah, that's true. Jon Favreau is going to be directing an episode this season, which he didn't do last season. Apparently, Carl Weathers is going to get behind the camera as well. Interesting.
Fuck it, go ham. Yeah, Jon Favreau's too busy doing Lion King.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's like Chef Joe.
Well, they were filming that while he was still doing all the post and recording sessions or whatever else. Yeah, yeah, quote unquote filming. So,
but yeah, that's the Mandalorian, and that's the end of this news segment. Let's move into what did we end up watching. Ciaran, what did we end up watching?
Ashley, you came to me a week ago and you were like, "Hey, Ciaran, do you want to be what do you want to watch?" And I was like, "Man, sure thing. Yeah, let's go." And he's like, "Cool. Well, you can pick the movie because the movie we were gonna watch we can't do without Nick." And I was like, "Cool." So I sat down and thought to myself, I was like, "Man, this is what the movie you did have picked. This is a high caliber movie. This is culturally very important. So I need to pick something equally as culturally important, equally as well shot, equally as meaningful to the world of cinematography. What can I do? What can I do in this situation? I've got it. Limitless. Boom. Instant. There we go. In the net. We're good. Didn't need to think about this any further. Let's go, guys. So we are watching the fantastic Limitless.
You know how they say that we can only access 20% of our brain? This lets you access all of it. They've had clinical trials and it's FDA approved.
All right, just out of curiosity, and that's all. I was blind, but now I see. A tablet a day, and I was limitless. I now had cultural appetites.
Since when do you speak Italian?
I finished my book in 4 days. I'd like to renegotiate my advance. Math became useful.
From 12,000 to 2.3 million in 10 days.
I'm baffled by this guy.
So, Eddie Mora, you do know you're a freak. What's your secret?
Medication.
Yes, the 2011 film directed by Neil Berger, starring Bradley Cooper, Abby Cornish, Robert De Niro, Andrew Howard, and Anna Friel, with the help of a mysterious pill that enables the user to access 100% of his brain abilities. A struggling writer becomes a financial wizard, but is also put in a new world with lots of dangers. Ciaran, I believe you said on the show before, you're a huge fan of Limitless.
I love this movie. Like, I think this gets to a fantasy spot in my brain because I'm always like, imagine if you were like the smartest person in the room. I'm always drawn to characters like your Sherlock Holmeses that can, dissect everything in a quick pace. understands the world and then can kind of talk because of that and put it into his personality. So, and that's why Limitless speaks to me in this way. I really enjoy Bradley Cooper's performance in this movie. It's not perfect, but I think this was the first movie that I really personally recognized Bradley Cooper and was like, man, I'm a fan of this guy's acting chops. I'm like, good. Okay, I like this guy. I remember first watching it, being surprised that somebody like Robert De Niro was involved with this. I love the cinematography of this movie. I think it is. It's not your fantastic movie. Like, it's not, Oscars worthy, but I just really enjoy it and really think it's fantastic.
Cool. Dylan, what do you think of Limitless?
I don't like this movie. I didn't like it the first time I watched it, and I didn't like it the second time I watched it now. I think it's boring, vapid, and I don't know what the fuck the point of it is. That is my main complaint with the movie both times. I'm like, what is the point of this movie? Because by the time I get to the final scene, I'm like, is the message of this movie that unless you're living the high life, you're scum? I don't know what I'm supposed to take out of it, and that's what I always hate about it. Because by the end, at the start of the movie, I don't mind Bradley Cooper's character. I'm like, yeah, okay, like, dude's struggling, like he's trying to do good though, like, he's up and up and up. By the end of the movie, I'm like, you're shit. I don't like you. There's other characters shit. Don't like them. Your girlfriend's, I don't know why she's with you still. And good I guess. Like, drugs are cool. Celebrate. I loved how they do the cinematography where it zooms in constantly and stuff. And it's like, we've got hashtag style points over here to attract people like Ciaran, I guess. But other than that, this is a boring, vapid movie about how lower class systems suck, and if you don't take pills to get smarter and be cool, then you suck at life. And you should probably just die. I don't know.
You know what? I was, ever since I saw at the start of this, when we mentioned that we were watching Limitless, ever since I saw Dylan's facial expression, I was like, oh boy, we're in for it here. That was holy shit. Talk about putting your favorite toy to the show and tell and having some kid stamp on it.
The first 20 minutes is all right.
Yeah, I like it. I don't think it's amazing. The thing that I think I really enjoy is the score. I think it's a really enjoyable score, even though it's very repetitive. But I think the thing that helped me with this movie is the TV show that spun off from it, which was unfortunately cancelled after one season.
Is that actually connected to this, or is it just
yes?
the same thing?
Well, Bradley Cooper's in it.
Bradley Cooper is in
he?
it, like, for like a couple of
times.
episodes, like a couple of small scenes. It's set in the same world. He kind of like rewrites the ending of the movie, I think, a little bit, but other than that, it is. And I think the character gets more room to grow.
I enjoy that by the end in that TV show, Bradley Cooper character is kind of a bad guy. Like, he's not
because he's a fucking bad guy.
Yeah. Like, he's not the best person, and that TV show presents him that way, that he's very manipulative and very controlling of situations, which he does in this.
Yeah. I mean, the concept itself is really interesting. Like, the idea of obviously being able to use your entire brain, even though that's been proven false, that we don't use 100% of our brains or whatever, and just having, like, the idea of having a pill that allows you to have full clarity of all your memories and that kind of stuff, that'd be cool in concept. I think it's utilized, again, like, the first 20 minutes, I think it's utilized. Like, they set him up to be kind of a douchebag really well, like, really down his luck. Poor science writer who really is, like me, struggles to get anything down on the page. And then, he has this magical thing that is great, but causes more problems than it should. I think one of the other problems is he never sort of explains what his end goal is. He gets into this money-making scheme, but you never really find out why he wants the money, other than he wants to get a political career.
It's I will admit, this time watching it with a more critical eye, I did cringe it a couple times because I was like, man, ugh. or like even stuff like the stuff with the girlfriend. I'm like, why?
Why she keep going back?
Why does she keep going back? But also, this sends a really bad message of you need to change everything and get money and be successful before a girl's gonna like you properly, because she gives up on you because you're shit. It's like, okay, fuck.
I'll also say the bit where she takes the pill and she's going through that skating park. She like full on scarred that child for life.
Like that's using ice skates to inflict pain. Sure, using a child that is wearing ice skates to inflict pain on somebody is holy fuck.
Yeah, that's like.
I will say, like, although it's not exactly the same in concept, but when it gets down to it, I feel like it's somewhat similar, which is Bruce Almighty. Like, for some reason, I couldn't help but think about that, and just the whole idea that, you know, someone who's like, oh, suddenly gets all these powers and can basically solve all of his issues. But then by the end of that movie, it's not like, I figured out how to have the powers forever without any of the negative side effects. Now everything's going to be okay. By the end of that movie, there's a much more human story to tell, and like, this isn't actually good for you, and you know, you should learn to deal with your problems properly and whatever else. Whereas this movie's literally just like, you have some problems with the drug, figure out how to solve those problems, continue taking drug. It's not.
By the end of the but by the end of the movie, he's not taking the drug anymore.
Isn't he though?
Isn't he?
No. Well, according to the end of the movie, he's not taking the
End
drug.
of the movie.
And that he's
TV show
Wow.
says different.
Yeah.
He's still developed all the powers. So I mean, the point still stands.
yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun, like easy popcorn flick, but I don't think it like is amazing. But yes, also check out the TV show, which is on Netflix. I'll admit, I watched like 4 episodes after watching this film. I could go back and watch it again.
No,
Even though I've seen it
no,
before.
fix it?
no, you shouldn't. No,
I mean, yeah, I was just
no, you're not
like,
allowed.
relaxing.
Okay, no.
Listen. It's
Go
everybody
watch
is
your
at home,
fucking animal anime show
quarantined.
again.
It's just more fun because, you know, he's actually doing good stuff. Like, he's working for the FBI, like solving murders and that kind of stuff. You know, helping other people.
Also, he is actually Sherlock Holmes.
Kind of.
Oh, it's
yeah.
Criminal
TV show.
Minds, but with the
He's
drug
very Criminal
that
Minds.
gives the main
Yeah, with the
character.
druggy. drugged up.
Yeah, it's 100% Criminal Minds, but the main character takes the drug to become really, really smart.
With like fun, like models and like arts and crafts all the time. It's great. Yes.
5 out of 10, 4 out of 10, something like that.
Oh, you gave it below a 7? That's incredible.
5 out of 10.
All right, that brings us to the end of this episode of What Do You Want to Watch? If you want to find us all on Twitter, you can go to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. All our Twitter handles are there, so you can click on, follow, send us tweets about all the things you heard about on this episode and any recommendations you want to make. Of course, you can check us all our content over at explosionnetwork.com, including this podcast, including the before mentioned It's About Family, including Animated Wonders, Studio Ghibli's Animated Wonders, a Studio Ghibli podcast. You should check that one out as well. Yeah, and if you want to help us out, leave us a review either on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, or again on Twitter. Just tell people about the show and how much we need their support during this coronavirus, because there is very little content. So if they could tell us what content to watch so we can talk about it, that would be very helpful. All right. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.
You know, there's more than enough stuff to watch. You just need to stop rewatching fucking shitty TV shows like Limitless, the TV show, and you can go watch other stuff you haven't watched before.
I mean, it's comfort food. It's comforting.
Well, they give you a fucking hug and get over it. Jesus Christ.